Welcome to Breaking the Silence. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for interacting with us and engaging with us. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit the subscription button and subscribe. Today we are joined by a new guest panelist, Mrs. Trasta Chikore. Thank you for coming through.
Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you, panel, for coming for us to have this discussion. Today we're going to look at the issue of late marriages. Marriage has gone through a lot of transformation over the years, the many years that, and today our concept of marriage is changing. Depending on where you are in the world, the concept of marriage is changing. Some people will talk about marriage being between a wife and a woman and a man. Others will talk about multiple people in a union. So there's a lot to talk about in marriage. But today we are going to focus on late marriages. How has feminism impacted late marriages? How has the hookup culture impacted late marriages? And if you look at the West, is it the same as here in Africa? There's a research that was done by Kasamba and Nyirenda, and they looked at countries like Uganda, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, and they found that people are getting married later and later. And if it's happening in Africa, how prevalent is it in Zimbabwe? How often are people getting married late, or how prevalent is it in Zimbabwe that people are getting married late?
Very good question. Look, I think it's a thing in this generation, and I think a while ago we used to think maybe it's because people are going to school, they're pursuing, their professions, they're pursuing their careers, but overally, across the board, it looks like it is a phenomenon. People are choosing to get married late. People are choosing other things to happen in their lives first before they consider becoming a part of the institution of marriage. And I take it, it's just what it is in this day and age. I honestly don't think we could point to one particular reason why people choose to marry late. But hey, it's more than just me and my opinion. What do you think?
I think also the other thing we need to look at, interestingly enough, is what does late actually mean? Like in terms of, we saying later compared to, because I know if we look historically at our parents, some of them are getting married at 16, in their early 20s. By now, at 18, they have like 3 children and all of that. And nowadays, because I think maybe because of the institutions we live inside of, it's become convenient for people to marry later. Because at 16, you're still in high school. You're thinking, how does that actually work? If I start giving birth at 16, now I have to drop out of school because I can't go for A-levels, I can't do my... So a lot of people, generally, the idea is after I finish my first degree. Right? Because it just makes sense. You're not being disrupted in your education and all of that.
That's true. Besides, the Constitution of Zimbabwe does not allow people to get married before they're 18, or at least you can't. A child who's less than 18 years cannot give consent to marriage. So we can definitely say that 18 and below, that's called child marriage. So that's not early marriage anymore. If we're looking at early marriage, we're looking at anything from 19 to about 23-ish sort of years. And then it's kind of right time marriage would be maybe between 24 and 29. Here I'm talking about girls, eh?
I was about to ask.
And then late would be maybe in 30s and above. So that's kind of, so definitely not child marriages. We're talking about late marriage in terms of marrying 30s and above. But is that late even for us in Zimbabwe? Would you think that that's late?
Yeah, I would say it's circumstantial. Because sometimes for boys, they will not be prepared. There is unpreparedness. They lack financial support, and some are just not ready to give their commitment. So I would say 30 plus for boys or 35, it's late marriage.
Because, right?
Yes, because you're looking at also childbearing. At what age are you going to have your children? So for girls, maybe from 30 going down, from 30, should we say from 30 years?
From 30, yes.
Yeah, from 30 years, I think for girls it will be late. Because these days, 25 years, I remember my girl was saying at 25, I would want to be married, but now she's 27, she's still doing school, she's going to work. But I feel for girls now, they do not have a choice that much in terms of making choices of choosing to marry early or late.
Why do you say that?
That's interesting.
Yeah. Why I say that, because sometimes they might not have the right relationship. They might not have the right boy to marry. Because girls, they are sort of disadvantaged when it comes to marriage. They cannot go to a boy child or to a man to say, I want to be married. Girls will always be ready.
But they're doing that.
Actually,
They're doing that now.
They are doing that now because of non-commitment from the boys.
So they're having to push. I think this is where women have been forced to then take on a new personality, sort of, or a new approach to life, maybe stemming from feminism. You know, there's a push that, you know, for a woman needs to be extremely successful. They need to be independent. They, you know, being a feminist probably means that, you know, I'm equal to a man in every aspect, in terms of salaries, which is good, in terms of job opportunities, which is good. But then there's also that other side where women can now have a partner today and leave them tomorrow, you know, and you know, just as men do. So I think this is where that culture where now women can approach a man because they are at that level, they're able to, you know, they're just as men in terms of I can do whatever a man can do, so I can approach a man, I can sleep with a man, and I think that contributes to then people not getting married. What do you think?
I just wanted to say, maybe before I answer, I just wanted to say that I've had discussions, you know, elsewhere, where people say that women have a chronological clock when it comes to marriage and life in general. We our pulse, you know, our hands are on the, you know, the pulse, and that pulse rate that we are going by is the age. How old am I? Whereas I find that men, their life determination is really on the basis of, am I financially ready for this next challenge that I'm taking? So, which for me, which makes a lot of sense, because to give them a cutoff age, as it were, is to assume that everything is equal at that age. What happens if a young man is 35 and, honestly speaking, he has not secured a job? He doesn't even know what to do with himself and his life, and he's not about to take on, you know, a challenge such as marriage at that age, because they just not are prepared for it. I think that it would be better for people to engage in marriage when they are ready for marriage, as opposed to, I'm old enough to get married.
Okay, so what you're saying, Sis Clarissa, is that you're adding on to the reasons why people are not getting married for financial reasons, right? They're not ready because they're not financially stable. So you said they're not financially stable. I've talked about the hookup culture and feminism, right? As the three reasons right now that why people are getting married later and later in life.
And they could just not be ready emotionally, relationally. I'm not mature. I'm not mature enough to commit.
But then that begs the question, why? Why at 35 would you not be emotionally ready? There must be a reason for that reason.
Yes, there is a reason.
Yes.
There
so
is
what
a reason.
Is the reason?
It's just late development.
Why are people developing late?
Very good question. Let's discuss.
Yes.
Why are people developing late? Because those people that we said our mothers would get married at 16. At 16, they were emotionally stable. At 16, they were mentally prepared to face the challenges that comes in a marriage relationship. And yes, there were other aspects with which they suffered, but by and large, they were capable in handling the baggage of marriage at that age.
Is it an issue of being ready, or it was just the culture then? That culturally everybody was getting married at 16.
Can I come in on that? I think, let me talk for the 30 plus somebody. I'm thinking that also the preparedness comes from, you remember the statement that says charity begins from at home. Are these boys trained? Are these girls trained? That's another thing. Because when somebody is not trained in the
marriage issues,
they will not know. That's, I mean, we know for us to achieve things like even these cameramen are recording because you are trained. So when you know something, you will be able to walk in it confidently. But because these boys, these girls are not trained, and I feel that more to the boy child.
More to the
boy child, yes. The father, has he walked the journey with the boy concerning marriage issues, concerning life issues? Because many times we find that girls, we are with girls. As mothers, we try even to be with boys. But there are other journeys that requires fathers.
True. That's very true.
The word of God again says, I will be, in Samuel, 1 Samuel 7, I will be your father and you'll be my son. If they walked that journey of training, you know. So I feel because of those fears, they don't know what the marriage institution is about. And sometimes there are other traumas that they are coming into contact with. Some have grown into polygamy. They know the father with 5 homes. So now for them to live such a life, and they fear to repeat that kind of a life. You know, so there are so many fears that are coming up, especially resulting in late marriages. Some will end up saying, you know what's the reason for me to marry? I would rather just have girlfriends instead of having a marriage. Committing.
Just to add on to come back to what Mairanga was saying there, in terms of people not being emotionally ready, I think you've really hit it on the nail when you talked about trauma. Sometimes a child who grows up in an environment where maybe they are witnessing domestic violence every day, not only just that lived experience makes them not want to be part of such an institution, right? But just what it does to them, what it does to their brains, will cause them either to hate the marriage institution, or if they do go into it, they go into it with that fear that what if I'm that person? What if I'm that person that beats up women? What if I'm that person who's unloving? So yes, I do agree that that will cause emotional immaturity as well.
And I like the fact that you spoke about training for men, because that's actually a big thing. As I'm looking at it, you see all of the reasons that we're talking about are not really problems per se, but challenges, right? Because if we look like what you were saying, the people that were getting married earlier, like our parents and their generation, still were able to manage the situations that they had. For example, we can say, like, personally, one of the reasons, I would say financially, I'm not as financially stable, right, as I would want to be for marriage. But if I look at the state that I am now, and when my father was married, I think I'm actually in a better position financially than my father was. But he got married, made it work, they built their thing, and it's growing. So I'm thinking the greatest thing, like what you're saying, you mentioned it, is the fear. And the lack of the fear essentially is saying, okay, this is the type of life that I want. Am I willing to build it? There's all that balance now.
I have a question for you, TJ.
Okay.
As a young man, what would you say you have by way of training towards marriage? From your father figures, from your father, from your friends. Going into marriage, what have you been told, or have you been trained?
So to speak. So my situation is a bit unique because my father passed away when I was really young. So basically, my male figures have been peripheral, not directly in the home, right? Does that make sense? So a lot of the things that I'm seeing at home are just me and my mom and figuring stuff out. And then you have your uncles coming in here and there. But there's no that like modeled training per se, because a lot of the things we learn from modeling and watching what people are doing. You're seeing how your father handles a financial crisis. You're seeing how he handles like a family problem or squabble. You're seeing all these things, right? I didn't have an opportunity to see that directly. But there have been people that speak into my life. But for the most part, it's not the same, right? Because generally people assume you have these things because when they see you, you're coming from a home. So the advice that you get is more so about the secondary things, right? So they're telling you when you marry, okay, you have to look for this, and that's not even said, really, to be honest. They just tell you pick wisely. What does pick wisely mean? It's all in the air. Nobody's telling you the details. They all say pick wisely. Do this. Even like what you're saying, the ladies, like I was having a conversation with my aunt the other day, and she's telling me, take your time. Don't rush it. Take your time. That's where she ends.
Can I come in? I think, TJ, you represent a big majority of young men in your generation. Not because their fathers passed on, but because of absentee fathers. They are alive, but they are not available.
That's true.
And also the other aspect is where our society is culturally at this present time, where in the olden days, it took a village to raise a child. So even if your father would be working far away from home, even if your father passed away, the men that were around you assumed the fatherhood responsibility effectively and intentionally. But today I find there is a gap where families have become too nuclear to the exclusion of the input by anyone else apart from internet, television, and things like that. So in the end, you come to this place now where you are consciously aware that I have lacked the input of a male, person in my life, and that's one aspect why a young man may end up marrying late. But I was also thinking that for those young men whose fathers are present and demonstrating life to them, I find also there's another phenomenon in our society today where these fathers, present day fathers, made it so much in life that it is challenging to the younger people.
That's true.
And so when a young person thinks, am I ready? It's not so much that they are not ready, because you said, you said what you are earning now is far more than what your father was earning age for age. But how come you are feeling like you're not ready, even though you are earning much more? I think you are in that place because the father now that you have, or the people that you look up to as fathers, they have made it so much that it's glaring too hard for you to think, okay, who am I to even begin to think that I want to get married? Someone can take it away.
That is so true. Hey, I was actually going to ask TJ that if your father married when he had less than what you have right now, what is it then that's causing you not to want to marry? And she's just answered. And I was also wanting to propose that it's also because the generation today wants everything to be perfect before they can make that move. They want everything to be set, they want the house, the cars, the everything, and then I will make the move. And this is what is then causing, the situation where we find ourselves in.
So what I mean is, on the issue of Lobola, it has been so dramatized now. I mean, a young man, when they think of proposing, it's no longer just the two of them sitting, agreeing this is how life is going to be. It has to match that which they are seeing happen in America. If talk of the engagement, it has to be a destination engagement. It can't be at the backyard of my whatever. It has to be somewhere with an aeroplane and with it's just not doable. Lobola, guys. Lobola is just something else. Thank God for Nigerians, but boy, Nigerians and Ghanaians culture has messed us up. Vana vedu ne deco yacho, dress code, invitations for Lobola, and you are supposed to be giving us money and not wasting money on all these other things. And it's a pressure on the young men. And then that's how girls end up marrying themselves now, helping to pay out and meeting some of these costs. Where's the wedding now? It's just out of Pinterest. Me, I've received invitations with colors, color coded. I don't even know those colors. And I'm told, go on Pinterest to get that yellow that I want. All I'm trying to say is, we've just created this beast about marriage that it's just prohibitive in the way that we are going. And life can be done simply. Things can be done simply and be successful. Absolutely. It doesn't have to be whatever it is that we want for it to become. I don't know. What do you say? You are the young men here.
I was laughing on the inside when you were saying these things, because this is exactly what's happening. And even I can see these are concerns. As a young man, like what you're saying, there's that pressure also, the external pressure from your lady also wants nice things, right? Her friend, her other friend, this is what their Lobola looked like. So she's like, I can't do a budget one, right? And even like what you're saying, the rings can't just be just a simple ring. It has to be a proper one where she can show off, and there have to be pictures. You're now hiring a photographer. It's become a photo shoot. And this is and imagine back in the day when I remember our culture was like, you'd have the Lobola, and then soon after there'd be the celebration, and people are now married. Now, because we are borrowing all these cultures, I'm looking at engagement first, Lobola, and then marriage. So before I get to my final destination,
you've left out proposal. Our men never bended their knees to say, I want to marry you now.
Well,
really? No. Who's bending whose knee now? You talk about it.
Can you see her reaction? It has to be a surprise. There has to be a big thing. You have to invite everyone. And you can't just be at your house.
So what we are saying there is that the cost of the process of marrying is prohibitive.
Exactly.
Right.
Because developmentally at this stage, I'm still starting off. If we're saying I want to get married younger, so my family, we can go together and do all these things. I'm not as financially stable to achieve all these things.
So we push it.
Yes.
We keep pushing it. And in the end, you marry late.
Yes. That's on the guy's side. But on the lady's side as well, the parents, pressure from the parents.
Yes.
Is that a thing? That, parents put pressure that there are certain levels or a certain class of men that you can't have. If we are staying in a 5-story house in what's the latest suburb in Marat?
The Santon,
the big houses. You can't marry a guy from the other side of the railway line. Is that a thing?
Very much so. It's got levels. The interesting thing is it's got levels. Even like what you're saying, there's that gap, right? Where I've seen this a lot with women. It may not be said outright, but you won't become an option for them if you are lower financially than them, just in general. They won't even look at you, or if they do, you're just that guy. Just know there's somebody else
that they're looking
pretty
at.
much.
If I can speak from experience, I think there's a lot of unspoken, unwritten assumptions around marriage and given our culture as well. If I can give an example from experience, my parents have done very well for themselves, we've never lacked for anything. So now, when you're starting to look at, okay, the caliber of gentlemen who are coming towards you,
The potential.
yeah, subconsciously you're thinking, okay, Saka, how will I approach my parents with this? What are they going to say? Because that's not a conversation we're having. How will I propose it? And you've got all of this anxiety leading up to the marriage and the whatever. And so my mom and I, fortunately we had this conversation. She's like to me, listen, what you see, especially I'm last born out of 3, right? So by the time I was born, my parents had overcome a lot of stages, right? And so she says to me, listen, don't even think, Kuti, by the time you're getting married to what you see as the end product. Start from the beginning, start from the very little, what you have, ipapo, and work towards. And like I was saying, that's something that our generation has not yet grasped. That starting small and building. We've fallen in love, and I think social media plays a huge role here. Fallen in love with the end product. You don't see what happens in the background, and you don't appreciate what you have to go through to get to success. So not to say that those stages are not success, but they're necessary
stages that and to want to get to immediately be what your parents were, that just does not make sense, right? Because they also had to start from somewhere, and
that capacity to grasp, for me, is a big deal in your generation, because for us to start, for some people meant one room.
Yes,
it's your kitchen, it's your lounge, it's your everything. Not even a bachelor flat, room. We rented rooms. When things get better, they become 2. When things get better, they become 3. When things get better, then you move from that location to the next better location. Every time, one little step at a time. That was our reality. Unfortunately, we cannot take you back to see us in that space. But like you say, that word grasp is important. If only you can grasp that when we say begin small, it's as small as it can get. Your beginning does not determine your end. It's just where you are starting. Some of us were willing to be married by men who didn't have any meaningful education. They went to night school. Night school was done for our generation. They went to night school.
And look at where they are now.
Look at where they are now. I mean, we used to have a chief executive officer of the Reserve Bank who went through.
He was a T-boy, right?
He was a T-boy, went to school, but by the time you people encountered him, he was now the governor of the Reserve Bank. But if truth be told, he was a T-boy at some place. I have a relative who was a spanner boy. At the time he met his wife. The wife was a domestic worker. They went back to school, moving from one room to that. He finished his professional career as a group CEO of a reputable organization. Never sat in class for high school. Did everything by correspondence. I'm saying this to unravel what is small. It is as small as it can get. He schooled himself. His parents never paid fees for him. Never. Help was given by uncles, not his own biological parents. But today, if you see him, these are the men with swag in Harare. And all we are saying, you have to be willing to start small.
That's right. So,
I think you hit a nerve there, because I think some of us people of faith is we're trying to get the tree, not the seed. For the most part. Right? And
the tree with fruit.
Exactly. And we're also, another sector of what I've seen is there's been cases, I think this is also another deterrence for ladies. There's been cases where, for example, you start off small, the guy grows, and then he starts getting another wife. Once he has money,
there's too much change in the pocket.
He goes and finds. So women are now on that sector of, why should I take someone through that process for him to just leave me later. I might as well just go for the finished product. So that's also where they would say, I would rather, that's the term, I would rather cry in a Lambo. Because then I'm comfortable. And people can see my life good.
Yeah. But you know what? It sounds reasonable. It sounds like it makes sense, but it doesn't.
It doesn't.
When
It
in reality on the ground, that Lamborghini, I'm Gariki. I drive it when the home is not okay.
Yeah.
You know,
the bacon would taste like sand.
Yeah, exactly. The bacon will taste like sand for sure. So I think it sounds like it's reasonable. It sounds like it's logical. It makes sense, but it actually doesn't. You'd rather. We're not saying just marry just anyhow.
Yeah. No.
We allow God to help us in choosing a man. We look at a person, look at their potential, look at their character. All those things come into play. Character of the person comes into play. So what we're just saying is that yes, indeed, not everybody that you marry is going to come out and be that good person. It's even in the days gone by, not every husband was good.
True.
Right? But what we're just saying is that what is it that's causing people to marry late? One of the factors that I wanted to bring in was the issue of our culture. We've kind of moved away from our culture, the way that children were brought up. Culture that actually encouraged children to get married, and now we are seeing the effect of that gap. What's your take on that?
Look, me, I have a lot of things to say. This is part on me. I know that it was not good that culturally marriage became like an end goal.
Yes.
It was not. That was not good because it cannot be an end goal.
No.
It's something that happens as I live life.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, it's like we have thrown away, the dirt with the child at the same time.
That's true.
When we disregard the good things of our culture, the good things that would nurture somebody, would groom someone for life. It benefited marriage, but honestly, the grooming was for life.
Yes.
Because if you come to think of it, we had channels of communication. We had support systems, support structures in existence, that if I encounter difficulties in life, in marriage, I have a strong support structure. We've disregarded all that. We have, you were raised up to know that mukadzi anoshandisa maoko ake haungogariri maoko. I remember I used to have my guru, was it Tete, who used to say, munhu wemukadzi ndewe kuverenga madhora, unopota uchiwana chinokuita kuti uverenge madhola ako. That's how they put it across to us, and you grow up knowing that handino dhora rekuverenga, ndofanira kuita dhora rangu rekuverenga. Over and above childbearing, I was expected to have dhora rangu randinoverenga. And because it was not labeled success in our culture, we dropped it off and now pursued this one box must fit all Western way of success and definition of success.
True.
And now we have a crisis.
Yes. And part of that crisis is that you talk about the things that we threw away, the baby with the water, is we threw away the presence of our grandmothers, who would really teach, where the mothers were busy, like you're saying, they needed to be counting money. Gogo is done, she's raised the children, she's got all the time. Now it's legacy time, she's passing on. But we've left that gap. Who is actually informing our children? You remember
explain how have we lost it? Nuclear family.
Yes,
you
exactly.
go for 30 minutes, 1 hour, and you are whisked away. When is she going to pass on?
That Gogo has, all the experiences that she's had, is not being passed on, because Gogo only has 30 minutes to talk to a child who doesn't speak Shona.
Exactly.
So they cannot really communicate with the child. And, Gogo wants to show different aspects of life, but there's just no time.
And for Gogo, it can be Sekuru as well.
Yes, it can be Sekuru.
Sekuru doesn't have time to sit down with the boy child, talk to him, show him, demonstrate to him about life. If they happen to have a rural home, show him the homestead, take him to the cattle whatever, all those things, we've taken all those things away. And there's a huge gap.
Yes.
And hence the crisis.
And so, you know, your school of thought, somebody has to inform your school of thought, right?
Yes.
So back then, our grandmothers, our grandfathers were informing us, this is how to be a man, this is how to be a woman.
Yeah.
And so that was us, and that became who we are, our habits and our character. So today, what's informing our children?
Kevin Samuels.
Who's that?
Okay, so
I would say to be continued. Guys, who is informing us? Who is informing us?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yes, we need to really look into that. Another aspect that I wanted us to also look at is issues of feminism, because I think if we go without touching that, the young generation will feel cheated.
Yeah.
What's your take on feminism?
I recently watched a video. This is just a small, I'm sure a small portion of feminism and all of that, but I think this video sums up the after effects of feminism and the reason, or a possible reason, for marrying late. This young lady went on TikTok and she says, I think she was around about late 20s, and she says dating is very difficult in my time. She says, I wake up in the morning, we all go to work, I come home, or she says what I would see my parents do. Let me start there. My dad would go to work and he'd come back and he'd sit on the sofa and he'd start watching TV, pop a beer if he drinks beer, the likes. My mom would also go to work, come back, and she starts a second shift. That's what she called it. We'll try and set the video if we can. Starts the second shift. She now starts to cater for the children. She now starts to cook a full meal, cater to the husband, make sure the husband's got everything prepared for work, right? And she says to me, that's the type of guy that I'm going into the market to date, where I'm saying, okay, we've both gone to work. Now I must start a second shift, and he sort of relaxes. So those are the type of reasons why women would delay marriage, where typically, or what culture would have dictated for marriages around about the age of 16, you get married. Like you said, you get married early. You spend 16 years almost solely focused on being a maiwe musha, keeping a homekeeping, right? And you get married.
You're trained to be that.
You're trained,
Now we're opening up channels of, you get educated, pursue a career, you continue, you delay already because you've gone to school, you've done university and the likes, and you start to get married, much later. And you're going into this scenario where you feel like that equality of opportunity is almost now doing the opposite effect. Feminism is great. We want equality of opportunity, but pulling it together now with modern day culture and previous culture is sort of confusing.
It is.
And also, Kudzi, remember that the people that defines feminism for us are other cultures. We are just importing
taking it in
what other cultures have defined, and and then we say we struggle with it. Why are you struggling with something that is not yours? In the first place, it was not meant for you. It was meant for their setting, and they have a better understanding of it. How about we discuss our own setup? Yes, allow for us to grow and to develop, but let's speak of what has it been. I know the concept of Ubuntu. I know that it's us trying to push everyone to say, but who are we in the scheme of things? Because the more we allow other cultures to come up with their own words, their own definitions, and now we are trying to wrestle with that, to say, how does this fit now in the scheme of things of our lives? They probably never had life like we've had life. And all I'm saying is, we went to school, and it's a good thing to go to school. But I know how I must conduct myself as a woman. My husband, I'm hoping that he knows how to conduct himself as a man. There are things that I just know that he does, and there are things that he knows that I do. It's not like the man sitting on a sofa is a bad thing. At that moment, he's sitting down. But when it comes to issues of security around that home, he's the one who's supposed to go around. When it comes to issues of providing for the family, ultimate provision for. It's his responsibility. He is the leader in this family. And it worked well for generations until we grasped onto feminism, and now we're confused.
Yeah. You know what? I think that feminism has its pros and it has its cons.
Yeah.
It is good that men and women are equal in terms of opportunities, in terms of salaries. That is good. But I think we've gotten to that place where, like you said, we've imported so much of a culture that is actually failing, really.
Yeah.
When you look at the West, they are failing.
Yeah.
Their marriages, their children. Look at the I'm not saying every Western person is bad. They're just their family structures, they're falling apart. Look at their birth rates. They're not having kids anymore. That's bad for the economy, you know. And we've got something good. I mean, they're actually looking at Africa as the place to be in terms of growth. So, but we are wanting to have what they have, which has failed. But at the same time, feminism is toxic.
Yeah,
it's
can be
toxic, you know, where we're demonizing men are bad, and we're wanting to make sure that they're down there, and as we promote the cause of the woman. And as we spoke earlier that, you know, we have NGOs, we have churches all vying for the girl child and making sure the girl child is equipped, is empowered, but nothing is being done for the boy child. And so we have this thing now where the boy goes out there, they don't even have the social skills to date a woman, because they've been in the West. Actually, you can't just go and approach a woman. That's harassment. You know, you have to go on a dating site to find a girlfriend. You know, it's really just. It's just not okay. I think we need to look deeper at feminism and see what. Not even look at feminism. Let's look at our own systems and say what's been working well for us and what hasn't been. Let's work on what hasn't been working. Yes, women must be given opportunities. Yes, women must have a voice in the home, but not at the expense of, not at the cost of a man's need for a voice and men's need to be heard. So just that balance is very important.
You said something I really want you to, during the break, you said something about A women and A men and B men and A women. I think you need to say it for viewers.
I need to say it again,
right? You need to say it again.
So I was trying to explain that I can't remember who wrote about that, but somebody was talking about how men and women in terms of income are placed, and then income versus the ability to get the woman or the ability to get the man. So you have A women, these are the high earning, high class people, A women and A men, and then you have the B who are okay. There's, you know, the C and the D's. So what happens is the A guy actually has access to A, B, C, D women. He's got choice of all women. But he doesn't like he won't go for the D. So he'll instead, but what he doesn't want is an A woman who's a feminist, who I don't know who's equal. So they become a threat in a way. So they'll go for the B woman, right? And then the B men. The B women have been taken, so the B men will go for the C women, and then the C will go for the D women, right? So this means that the D men and the A women are left without partners. So and
yet to be educated is not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing.
But like you say, it's working against us. When life is lived like that. You know.
Yeah, I think both men and women can actually be educated, respect each other, put each other first, you prefer each other, and live this whole full life knowing who they are in the home, without having to pull anyone down, without the men feeling that they need to make the woman, you know, submissive or subservient, actually is the word, more of a servant than a partner. And the woman, without the woman feeling like they need to put their men in their place.
I really hope that's a conversation that we can have, you know, maybe as a separate episode where we can discuss how to merge into or transition, like you were saying, into the new culturally.
Because because of that, the issue of needing to be equal and all, it's also led to this hookup culture, situationships.
Yeah.
Because if I'm equal to a man, why can't I do what a man does? What's your take on that?
Yes,
You pick and choose.
That's an interesting one in terms of, and I think this is my opinion though, that it's had destructive, just in general, not only for marriage, but just in general in life for the women that live by that rule, because, promiscuity is happening now because they feel they can also sleep around, there's this whole
open relationships.
What's this lady's name? Amber Rose has a whole slut march that they do where they're saying, you can't slut shame. It's our right as women. We need to be sluts. Essentially, is what she's saying. So they go on a.
It's our right as women to be sluts.
Exactly. So they go on an
mimicking
actual.
what the men do.
That's what they say essentially. So they're saying men can do whatever they want sexually.
Okay.
So we must also be sexually liberated. So they're trying to take back the word slut, or for like a whole in a sense. So they actually do a march on the street every year. They do it.
Wow.
In their dress, however they want to dress.
It's like I'm empowered. If I sleep around as much as men are, I'm empowered. I'm liberated. I have choice. It's my body, and I do with it what I want.
Exactly, and that's also.
But how is that affecting people getting married, though?
This is where I was going now. The fact that people are like that, back in the day, from my research and from what I've seen from parents and all of that, sex was actually something that was reserved for the sanctity of marriage.
Yes.
So now, it was a huge part of playing. Like I know even the Bible would say it with you. Even if you feel like you cannot control yourself, you're better off marrying early.
Yes.
Right. That was the encouragement, even from a biblical standpoint. So there was that aspect that would make people say, instead of just doing my life anyhow, I'd rather choose a partner, and then we can be together for the rest of our lives. Now, because of this empowerment and this sexual liberalism, there's really no incentive for people to marry, or even just in another, we'll talk about this sometime, where even just for marriage, because now I can get all the benefits of marriage without being married.
Without going through the Lobola thing, the engagement.
Don't even, that's my expenses. We just live together and do what we do, and just,
we co-parent.
So I think that's also delaying marriage in a sense.
That's true.
Yeah. So, Maichkore, your take?
Yeah, I think he has said so much. Maybe I can just say the disadvantages and the advantages of then marrying late, and which we then find in boys. You find that because of late marriage, sometimes people find themselves in there's low energy in the relationship. You retire late because you're still looking after the children.
Yes.
And there's so much baggage from the previous relationships. Maybe you've got baby mamas. Now to settle in, it becomes difficult. And also the independence that somebody has been living, it's then difficult to come together, so there's just so much. Also sicknesses come into play. HIV, sometimes you have picked from different ones that you've been sleeping with.
That's true.
So it's really such a disadvantage.
It is. Thank you so much. And just not to forget that the impact on our mental health. People are having depression and anxiety. It's really impacting our mental health in a bad way. But in our next session, we'll delve deeper into it. Thank you so much for coming today. It's been an interesting discussion. I'm looking forward to our part 2, which will be flighted the following week. Do not forget to subscribe. Do not forget to share. Do not forget to like. We will continue to bring you impactful discussions that will make a difference to our mental health. Thank you. Have a good week.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.